Hello everyone, it's me again, and I am just coming to you after the end of day 2 of the Clore Leadership Pulse programme here at Norton Park, just outside of Winchester. So this has been the first full day of Clore, so I don't know if you can see, a few bags under my eyes there. It's been a pretty long and full-on day today, but really valuable, really kind of digging into stuff now, and there's just so many things just kind of whirring around in the brain at the moment, which is fantastic. It's exactly what this kind of program should be all about. You want to kind of come out and be thinking about stuff and thinking about yourself and thinking about the way that you do things and that we do things as a sector and what leadership is. And if you don't feel like that, then you kind of question if you're getting the value out of the course. But that is not the case with Clore Leadership Pulse. It is good value. So today we had 2 sessions. We had a session in the morning that was kind of about your personality and leadership styles, and then in the afternoon we did a whole thing on working on kind of an action learning set. So I'll come to that later. But first, the personality tests. I don't want to give too much detail about anything. I might do some kind of follow-up videos later, just digging into some of the things individually. But yes, in terms of the personality model, then we worked using a leadership kind of model that is called the 4 Seasons, that looks at leadership styles based in 4 different types of models. They're called 4 Seasons. They're obviously spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So the idea is that people can kind of fall into one of those categories in terms of their types of leadership. Now, before we came to the Clore course, we were asked to fill in a survey that asked us certain questions that would kind of address what type of leader we perceived ourselves to be. And we were also asked to have 2 nominators of people who we work with, maybe line managers or colleagues, to also give their perception on what they thought about our types of leadership. Now, it's an important distinction to make, is this is not about what you do, it's about what you feel and what you think. So it's not about going the actions you take, it's about how you feel about doing things, what you do like doing, for example. So it was, a really good way of considering leadership. Rather than talking about action, it's talking about the type of person you are. Now, there are millions of definitions of leadership. I think from the course leader, they said there was something like 6 billion results on Google if you search leadership. So you can test that and see what the number you come up with is. But yeah, you can't really define leadership very simply. This is just an idea that you can use as a simple framework. So really useful. We got given personalized reports that would kind of look at our responses to the questions, other people's responses to the questions, where we felt our kind of core values might lie, and we have a chance to interrogate that. But particularly is also how we think about how we interact with other people and other styles of leadership. So really useful that we don't just internalize the way that we do things. We actually think much broader and about not just us, but the people we work with, people who work in a different way, rather than seeing it as being a resistance and it's a kind of oppositional thing. It's about going, how can we best communicate and best collaborate? So that was really useful to really kind of pin that down. And there were certain things where you went, okay, I absolutely recognise these traits in me, and it's quite nice to see it kind of laid out black and white on a piece of paper and go, yep, that's me, that's entirely me. So, for example, I came out as being a summer person, and honestly, guys, I am such a summer. That's totally me. So yeah, that was really kind of interesting in terms of that personality stuff. But equally, on the kind of opposite side of the kind of the diamonds that was there in terms of the kind of model, the opposite idea was that it was summer and winter, and you would kind of look at winter and go, that's your opposite. But actually, there's a lot of values in winter in the way they do things that I also kind of share. So it's not an absolute model. You don't go, you're definitely one, you're not another. The whole kind of scoring that we got through different styles, for a lot of people, they were quite close together, and generally there were a couple that were always going to score quite similarly. So again, it's not an absolute model, it's just a way of thinking about leadership. So it's called the 4 Seasons leadership model. If you want to look it up and find some information online, it's a really interesting way just to think about leadership. And yeah, and there's the ability to, for Steve who runs a course, you can get like personalized reports and stuff. You can get it done for your organizations. it's a useful exercise to do if you're thinking about leadership and what type of leader you are. If you're at that point of going, I am a leader, but I haven't really thought about the type of leader I am, or going, I want to be a leader, what type of leader will I be? It's a good way to consider that stuff. So that was really, a really useful session. Everyone was a bit anxious, I think, beforehand, of going like, oh my God, is it going to say that I'm like a terrible leader or something? And it wasn't that. It was good to kind of get that away in the morning and actually go, yeah, it was a valuable experience. So that was our kind of starting session this morning. And then we had a break, and then we kind of broke up into smaller groups, and in the afternoon we got into action learning sets. Now, action learning sets are something quite interesting because they're quite big in the kind of leadership and business world, and they're something that I haven't used them directly before or been involved in them. I've certainly heard about them, and actually once you get into them, I've certainly used some of the practices and methodologies behind them, but I haven't recognised them as being action learning sets. It feels like it's a kind of model where people do them, and then they kind of take them away and use them in different contexts. And there's a bit of a Chinese whispers thing to go along, where you do some of the exercises, but you don't recognize as action learning set, and they're not quite delivered in the way they should be when you do them. So it's quite good to see the actual model. So action learning sets are really valuable. We had a group of 6 of us plus a facilitator, and we were able to go around and we got to know each other a little bit more. That was really good, about who we are in a context of where we're coming from and what we're doing and all this kind of stuff. And just in terms of a beginning exercise to get to know each other a little bit, that was really valuable. But then the actual kind of action learning set, the opportunity for someone to present an issue or a problem or a challenge, and the rest of the group would kind of wrap around that and support finding a way to address that. Now, it's not what most people tend to do in those situations of offering advice, going, what you should do is this, or when I did this, this is the way it was done. That's kind of not what it's all about. It taps back a little bit to what Hilary Carty said in a session on the first evening, that being a leader is often not about having the correct answers, it's knowing the correct questions to ask. And that was a big part of the process, is when someone kind of came up with an issue and spoke to the group about it, the thing for us wasn't to give that person an answer, because that person is finding that out themselves, and it's part of leadership, is finding the answers. What our responsibility was to kind of ask questions and to help them sometimes look at things in a slightly different way, but also to I guess in some regards, it's also to pick up on something maybe they haven't realised that they're thinking or doing, and just try and add a bit of clarity in some regards, but also kind of see if they're maybe missing something. It's quite difficult to quantify, to be honest with you, because a lot of the questioning is personal. Now, it is a very kind of exposing thing to be in. An action learning set, being a small group, is really vital, because there's a lot of need for confidentiality in those situations, so you don't want to give anything away. And I'm absolutely not saying anything about what was said in those conversations, because that defeats the purpose of what it's all about. It's about having a group of people you can kind of trust and talk to and can help you figure something out. You look at these things and you go, that's why people do these things in business. You've heard about them because they're really valuable. And there's an element to which you feel like, actually, you think about them and they feel kind of obvious that we should do them more, but we get stuck into different kind of practices and bad habits sometimes. So being able to do this, and we're going to revisit them kind of outside of the residentials, and also in the residentials, we have those kind of connections. It's good to develop that group and that support network. So that's pretty great. And you start, at the end of day 2 now, we're beginning to settle in. We've all got to know each other a little bit more. We're getting to trust each other a little bit more. We're a bit more relaxed in the situation that we're in, this weird kind of context of living in a hotel room for a week and then coming back again for 2 more times and living in a hotel room and just learning and having our meals together. It's those weird kind of situations, but we're beginning to settle in. And I think that after the initial kind of apprehension people had yesterday, being like, oh, it's a strange situation and we don't know each other, and am I the imposter or not, all that kind of stuff, we're a bit more relaxed now, and we're all kind of going, yeah, we're buying into this. We want to get the most out of this course. And in terms of doing Clore, it's a big thing people say beforehand, and I agree entirely, is you get out what you put in. You've got to be open and receptive to everything, because you learn so much. And, doing something like this, I feel a bit like when I do this video and when I do ones for ISPA, I do a lot of kind of just kind of stream of consciousness talking to camera, but because it just fires up so much stuff in your brain, it's just like synapses just popping off all the time. because it's inspiring and it gets you thinking about stuff. So I'm well up for that. I'm well up for being inspired and thinking and bleh, and kind of word vomiting into these videos, so I can look back later and go, man, that was obviously really impactful on me, and I'm being incredibly incoherent, but there's something I can pick out of that. So again, I scribbled a load of notes. My notebook again is just like there, just mess of words. My handwriting's terrible, so that's probably not going to be quite useful to read back. So video, really useful. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, we're on Tuesday now. We've got 2 full days, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday until kind of mid-afternoon. And then we come back again 2 more times, and it's like already there's such a level of value that we're getting out of this course. And, you know, I get why people talk up Clore so much, but also it's got to be the right time. Like, part of the value of Clore is doing it at the time that's right for you. So it feels like the right time for me. And again, you know, I would say to anybody who thinks about applying for this kind of course, you know, or is at that point and going, I'm kind of at that point where I'm ready to look at that stuff and learn about it. Just have a look at Clore. If you're looking at Clore, really get into it and think if it's right for you, and to consider like chucking your hat in the ring, really, because it's great. And the network of people you kind of get in touch with is really, really great and really valuable. So yeah, Blair, word vomit, all out of the way now. It's, you know, really great to have all this fire off in my brain. It makes it very difficult to sleep because I can't settle down for hours. So I always wake up every morning and I'm mainlining bad coffee at a hotel. But, you know, that's part of the joy of being on a residential. But yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world, being able to have opportunities like this. I'm super grateful for being able to be accepted on the course and feel really privileged, but also feel it's really important to put something out there just so it doesn't just sit in my brain. I want to be able to kind of let people know a little bit about what it's all about, what's going on. So yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do here. So anyway, that's day 2 of Clore Leadership Pulse that is kind of out there now and done. You know, we're coming up to Wednesday, halfway through the week. I've been not entirely clear about what's coming up, and intentionally I've tried not to think too much about what's going to happen and plan ahead or prepare for it or read up or anything like that. So I just want to have the experience. So yeah, don't ask me what's happening tomorrow because I haven't really got much of an idea, but I like it that way. So anyway, that is day 2 of Clore of Leadership Pulse. So yeah, I need to just kind of go for a walk or something just to kind of calm my brain down a little bit. So yeah, that's it for today. I will check in again tomorrow. Like I say, I think at some point I'll do videos that are a bit more kind of focusing on particular skills and tasks and whatnot that have come up, because it might be interesting to people. But yeah, this is just word on it now. I'm thinking about stuff. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to go for a walk around the grounds and get some fresh air and hopefully be able to sleep a little bit tonight. But yes, that's me for tonight. Thank you if you've watched. So yeah, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye.